Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to Sweetwater's SoundCheck. This time out, we'll put Apogee's Ensemble Thunderbolt audio interface to work recording a session. Let's get started. This is the Apogee Ensemble Thunderbolt audio interface. It connects to your Macintosh by Thunderbolt 2, gives you a wide variety of input and output options, and a lot of flexibility. All this makes it ideal as a hub for a commercial, project, or home studio. The Ensemble Thunderbolt gives you a total of 30 inputs and 34 outputs. Let's take a quick tour. On the back panel, we have 8 XLR inputs. Now these feed straight into the microphone preamps that are built into the Ensemble Thunderbolt. These are really high-quality, pristine microphone preamps. They're great for a variety of different sources. Now you can also switch these to accept line level signals at either +4 or -10 levels. The really cool thing is when you switch to line level, you actually have a direct connection going into the analog to digital converter, so you're not going through the microphone preamp when you're tracking line level signals. In addition, the first 4 inputs can accept instrument level signals, and the first 2 inputs have hardware inserts, so you could connect an external hardware compressor or EQ and use that in your signal path while you're tracking. We have a pair of balanced monitor outputs, and we have an additional 8 outputs available on a D-sub connector. Now those outputs can be configured in a variety of different ways using the Maestro software control panel on your Macintosh. You could, for example, set those up to feed an additional set of monitors. We have 2 ADAT inputs and 2 ADAT outputs, and those can be configured at standard sample rates for up to 16 inputs and outputs. Or you can use the SMUX protocol to use high sample rates up to 192 kilohertz. We also have SpeedIF digital input and output for stereo digital audio signals, and they've also included word clock I/O so you can access the Apogee clock inside the Ensemble Thunderbolt. The front panel has an additional 2 inputs and 2 special outputs. The 2 inputs accept guitar level signals, and you can route those directly into your DAW. The 2 outputs also deliver guitar level signals. You can configure those to send a through signal, so what's coming into guitar input 1, for example, goes straight back out of guitar input 2 and could feed a guitar amplifier. This lets you record a direct guitar signal while also recording a mic'd up guitar amp. Or you can feed signals straight out of your DAW and into an amplifier, and this lets you reamp previously recorded direct guitar signals. Finally, we have 2 headphone outputs on the front panel. Now these can accept completely independent mixes, so you could send one to your talent while you're using one as the engineer. Each one has their own master volume control as well. Using the front panel buttons and the 2 rotary controls, we can access all of the parameters that we need for making our recordings. You simply select the input that you want, hold that down, and you get access to a variety of different settings. You can choose the input type, microphone, instrument, line level. You can turn the pad on and off. You could group inputs together. You can phase invert the signal. You can set up a low pass filter, turn on soft limit. So we have a lot of capability for optimizing the inputs for whatever source you're recording. On the output side, the other rotary control sets the volume level for our monitors. When you push that, you can also access muting and unmuting of the speakers. We have 4 assignable buttons on the front panel, and I've found these to be tremendously useful during my sessions. I've got them set up so that button A turns on my talkback mic, button B clears any clips that might be on my meters, button C sets up how our guitar outputs are routed, whether they're being sent us through or whether they're coming straight from our software, and then button D mutes our headphones and our speakers simultaneously. Finally, we have a built-in stereo microphone right here on the front of the Ensemble Thunderbolt. Now you can use that as a talkback mic, and you can also use that to capture audio signals. So if you want to get a really lo-fi squash drum track, for example, you could record straight into that little microphone and capture it to tracks in your DAW. With all that I/O capability, combined with the flexible routing that's available inside the Maestro control panel that comes with the Ensemble Thunderbolt, you have an extremely versatile audio interface that's capable of handling just about any session. But there's one other aspect of the Ensemble Thunderbolt that really stands out, and that's that Apogee has set this up to be a DMA device, which means that it directly accesses the memory inside of your computer. This allows the latency to be extremely low. In fact, the latency is so low that you don't have to use a software mixer or a control panel with the Ensemble Thunderbolt. I've been tracking with it in my studio and here in my office. We've just been plugging straight into the Ensemble, straight into the DAW. We have no problems with latency at all. Let's check out how the Ensemble Thunderbolt works in a session. I've invited Nick DiVirgilio and Don Carr to come in and join me here in my office. Nick is playing a Pearl E-Pro drum kit, it's an electronic drum kit, and it's going into input 1 and 2 in the Apogee Ensemble Thunderbolt. Don is playing a Lakeland Skyline Series bass. It's going through a compressor pedal and then straight into the guitar input, so it's basically a direct recording from his bass. Now those tracks are being captured by Studio One from PreSonus. I've got a drum track set up to record them in stereo, and then I've got a mono bass track. I'll be sending a click out through the speakers, and they'll be playing along with that click. let's begin building up our track. What we have going on now is Don Carr is going to play some rhythm guitar on top of the bass and drum track that we recorded, but we're going to record this in a very special way. So to give us flexibility later on when we're mixing, I'm going to put the guitar input and output on the Ensemble Thunderbolt to work. Here's how I've got it set up. We're coming out of Don's Stratocaster straight into guitar input 1 on the Ensemble Thunderbolt. This will allow us to record the direct signal into a track here right inside Studio 1. Now I'm also coming out of the Ensemble Thunderbolt guitar output, so the signal's going into the Ensemble Thunderbolt, but it's coming straight back out of the guitar output and then into my Rivera Venus 3 amplifier. We've got an SM57 on that, and we'll be recording that to a second track here in Studio 1. Now the other thing I've done is in Studio 1, I've set up 2 headphone feeds that route directly to the headphone outputs on the Ensemble Thunderbolt. One of those is set up for me, one of those is set up for Don. And I can have independent mixes on those using the controls here in Studio 1 and the separate outputs and separate master volume controls right here on the front panel of the Ensemble Thunderbolt. Now the really great thing is, because the latency of the Ensemble Thunderbolt is so low, even at 44.1 kilohertz like we're recording at here, it's still only about 1.8 milliseconds, which is basically no latency at all. I don't have to route through any extra applications. All the routing is going straight through Studio 1, straight out of the Ensemble Thunderbolt. It's very simple, very easy to operate. So let's go ahead and record a rhythm guitar pass. So what I've captured here is 2 tracks of the rhythm guitar. The first one is a direct guitar track, which is recorded here. The other one is recorded with the amplifier through the microphone. Now what this allows us to do is to change the tone later using reamping. When Don recorded that first rhythm guitar pass, I think we used too much dirt in the guitar tone. It's a little bit fuzzy considering the chords that he was playing. I'd like to have a cleaner tone with a little brighter top end and maybe some modulated delay as well to give it a little bit more texture. And with the Ensemble Thunderbolt, that's very easy to do. Because we have that guitar output, we can run that direct track that we recorded straight back out and into our amplifier. Now this is very simple to accomplish using the Ensemble Thunderbolt. We've got a cable coming out of the guitar output, and we can change the status of that output using the C soft button, which has been assigned to change whether we're doing guitar through, which means we're routing through it as we recorded the first track, or using the guitar output as a straight output from the software, which is how we have it set up now. So when I play back, our direct guitar track will be coming out of this output, into the delay pedal, into the amplifier. Our SM57 microphone will be capturing the tone straight out of the Rivera Venus 3 amplifier, and that's coming back into microphone input 1 here on our Apogee Ensemble Thunderbolt. I've gone ahead and set up a headphone feed so I can monitor what's going on. Let's go ahead and record that track. I hope you've enjoyed this look at the Ensemble Thunderbolt in action. Apogee's really set this interface up to be an ideal hub for a project or home studio, or even a commercial studio. With those guitar inputs and outputs, it's so easy to get the guitar tracks that you want. You can record direct tracks, you can record with plugins, you can record a mic'd guitar track, or reamp later, so you have tons of flexibility for capturing the exact tones that you want. For recording mic tracks, whether you're recording vocals, drums, other instruments that you might be recording with microphones, the preamps in the Ensemble Thunderbolt sound awesome. They're pristine, yet they still manage to be warm. They're not sterile sounding. Lots of details and very realistic sounding, and they work great with a wide range of microphones. As far as other I/O options, you have an additional 8 outputs that you can use for routing inserts for hardware effects that you might want to put into your tracks. You could also use those for feeding additional sets of monitors. And if you need a ton of I/O, you've also got the 8-add inputs and outputs, so you can expand that as well for additional microphone preamps or for bringing additional hardware inserts into the picture. All of the control that you need is right there on the front panel of the Ensemble Thunderbolt, so you really don't even need to access the control panel. You can access it if you need to do special routings, but for everyday recording, you really will never even have to get into that. And in fact, the latency of the Ensemble Thunderbolt is so low that you don't need the control panel for that as well. You can record straight to your DAW with no problems with latency. If you're looking for a Thunderbolt audio interface for your Macintosh, I highly recommend you check out the Apogee Ensemble Thunderbolt. It works great, it's easy to use, it sounds incredible, has all the flexibility that you need, really a great choice as the hub for your studio. Thanks for joining me for Sweetwater's SoundCheck today, and my special thanks to Nick DiVirgilio and Don Carr for playing on our tracks. Let's finish up by recording a guitar solo on the song we've got going here. I'm Mitch Gallagher.